Welcome to Stop Fighting with Your Son podcast. I'm Natalia Schneimler, and I'm here to teach you how to finally stop fighting with him and love him like crazy. Because we all want to love our boys, and I am here to help you. Listen up and find out how. Hey mamas, how's it going? I have something for you today that's quite applicable to your everyday life. I hope this really helps you in your everyday life. So it is something that, you might have heard in the sales terms where people are working in sales positions is always agree with the client, or the client is always right. Right? When you've seen the client is always right. So that means you kind of, as a salesperson, you have to agree with whatever they're saying. So apply that to your son. And here's why. Here's how it works. Basically, whenever your son is saying something to you and you don't agree with them, what happens now is you start to talk to him and tell him your opinion and try to convince him about how what you're saying makes sense and what he's saying doesn't make sense. And so what is happening is you are creating an argument, a fight, voices may be raised or maybe not, but you are having a disagreement, right? And if you're listening here, you probably are having so many fights that you're so tired of it, right? Here's the one thing that I really try to see it as agreeing with the client. So because it serves me so much to skip to the part where I agree with them. Okay, so for example, it could be such a small thing as your 4-year-old saying something, "Mama, you forgot about me," which is completely ridiculous. I didn't forget about him, my twin saying that to me. But from his perspective, it is true. He believes that I forgot about him. And so there's no sense in me telling him I didn't forget about him because, well, I tried that. When I did, it was so funny because he just kept on saying the same thing louder, like, "Mama, you forgot about me. You forgot about me." He was so upset, right? And so me trying to tell him I didn't forget about you, I would never forget about you. You're my kid. I love you. Da, 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 da. He doesn't hear that. He doesn't want to hear that. And in fact, he's saying his message stronger. So I've learned to skip the whole part where I tell him what's reasonable, what makes sense, and straight to, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about you." And here I'm agreeing with the fact that for him, this is true. I'm agreeing that from his perspective, he feels hurt and feels left alone. And I can see, like when I'm agreeing with him, I can see how for him, this is reasonable. For him, this is what's happening for him right now. I'm agreeing that, yes, if he's believing that I forgot about him, then he's upset. So if I skip through the whole part where I disagree with him and I kind of try to get to the part where I do agree with him as soon as possible, I get to move towards my son and I get to connect with him ultimately sooner than later, which is actually what we always want, right? When we want to stop fighting with someone, we want to connect with them because we love them. We want to have that good connection with them. And so it's kind of like one of those sayings, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I mean, this is so true here. And I want to explain a bit further on why it's so good to do this, because I want you to see, like, in your world that you're both right. You are right that you didn't forget about him, and he's right that he believes that you forgot about him, because when he believes this is the reality for him. And when you believe that you didn't, this is the reality for you. So when you're agreeing with your client, with your son, all you're doing is you are creating a connection based on the world where both things are true, like in the end world. Usually people see the world as either or, like either I'm right or you're right. Either if I'm right, then you're wrong. Or if I get this promotion, you don't get this promotion, right? Like either or. Like it's like dog eats dog world or whatever, however you say it, but it's like kind of like a competition world. And I want to suggest that it's a world of and. Me and you. I'm right and you're right. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's always true in every single situation. And if you just assume that, hey, Natalia is completely right, then in every situation, you can either get to that point sooner. Like, for example, with a toddler, you're like, okay, he's being unreasonable, but I can see how he believes it, so it's true for him. You're like, okay, so you're able to get there a lot faster as you practice. You're like, yeah, I'm so sorry, honey. I'm so sorry I forgot you. Totally my fault, right? And so as I do that, I comfort him, and I make him feel heard, like he wants to be acknowledged and heard, and then from that point he calms down and he feels heard, and he then processes it, and we both of us like kind of look and find the solution to this. Whereas if we keep fighting, then we can't start solving it. I'm trying to prove my point and he's trying to prove his point, and the whole time we're just keep trying to figure out what the truth is. Where can we meet? We're not meeting anywhere, so we can't find a solution. But if we do meet in this middle where he is and I meet him there, then from that point we find the solution for this situation, where I say I'm sorry, and I ask him what he needs, and we move forward from there, and I feel connected to my son. I am no longer fighting with my son. I am taking care of me, my need to be connected, and I'm also taking care of my son and what he needs in that moment. But if we are finding ourselves in a place with our son where we completely disagree, and it's a topic that is very strong and heavy, and something that may come up when they're older, that's okay. If we don't agree with them, that's okay. What I do want you to start thinking about is, how can I find the truth in what he's saying, right? The point is for you to start moving in that direction, moving towards the person. And with a question like, how can I find the truth in what he's saying? Or how can that be true? Where is he right? I don't agree with him in principle, but what must he be believing that he thinks this is the truth? And always trying to find a way to see, how is it that they're seeing? Like, how can he be thinking that this is true? Let me find out more. Let me talk to him more. Let me ask him more. Let me listen more. Let me listen and let me really get into his head. And so often when I've done that, I would get to this place where I would learn so much about what they're thinking in their brain that I would say, this makes so much sense that you're believing this, because look at everything that you're thinking. And I still don't agree with these thoughts that you're believing and thinking, but I understand where you're coming from. Of course, this is what's happening. Of course, this is what you're saying and this is what you're doing. And from that place, I can be more of service and take care of my son and love him and connect him from an understanding. And notice how this is all me working on my brain. This is all me doing the work, and nothing that the son has to do, which is a beautiful thing, because it gives you all of your ability to create this relationship for yourself and your son, and it gives it to you in your hands. And it does not require your son to change. It does not require your son to change what he's doing or agree with you. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that's why I love doing this work. So if you are able to move the needle, like move your openness to believe, to see what it is that your son is saying, then keep doing that work. But if you are stuck in, like, I just don't agree at all, I want you to be okay just to stay quiet and to notice that you don't agree with him, and just say, okay, I'll just be quiet and I'll just listen, right? Or I'll just, if I can't make him agree with me and I can't agree with him, then what I will do is I'll observe what he says. I'll observe my own arguments in my own head, and I will just be quiet. And this is what I've done for when I can't agree. It's like being quiet is the best. I mean, of course you can do all the arguing you can, and I'm sure this is what our first resort to is to voice our opinion, make some sense, make reasonable arguments, and be like, hey, come on, dude, don't you see this? And that's always available to you. But if that fails, these are the steps you try. How can I agree with him? How can I agree with him super duper fast? Like, what's the fastest way for me to see how he's right? And I don't have to agree with him on what he's believing, right? Like, if he's believing that drugs are good, you're like, I don't want to agree with that, right? But what I'm saying is, how can I agree that this is the reality for him now? How can I see that this is what he's experiencing now? How can I understand that this is what he believes? Do you know what I mean? Like, when the customer comes to, like, let's say, to a mattress shop and wants to buy a spring mattress, and the salesperson says, no, but this, Tempur-Pedic or whatever, those foam mattresses are so much better. They're like the latest technology and they're so great. And the customer is convinced, no, I am too hot in these foam mattresses. I want the spring mattress. There's no point, right, for the salesperson to keep convincing this customer that the foam mattress is better, because that's just going to make the customer resist this idea even more, because he's already convicted and convinced in his reasons for the spring mattress, right? So the best kind of strategy would be for the salesperson to really get into the customer's head and find out, why do you believe that? And tell me more. I really want to know. And okay, this makes so perfect sense that you are wanting this because you're believing this and this. And if you're believing that this is better, let me tell you how this is not better, right? Like, let me address your reasons, or let's just talk about this, right? With more of an understanding of what this customer is believing. The same thing is for your son, right? So our goal here is to always be moving towards the person, right? When we're fighting, we're moving away from the person. So how can we move towards? And that is always by questioning, okay, tell me more, or questioning, how can I be wrong? Or questioning, why are you thinking this? Listening, right? We all know listening is great. But in terms of your son, I want you to think of this as like agreeing with him, or having him, seeing him as the customer is always right, is always your best strategy. Is just, how do you get there when you're convicted that you're right? That is the magic. Just ask yourself that question. How can he be right? And how is he seeing the world? And so I want to invite you to my group, where I talk so much more about how to connect with your son, how to create a real amazing relationship with your son or daughter. But of course, I'm so passionate about boys and just connecting with your sweet little boy, because I have 4 boys. So that's kind of my jam. But I always am happy to help people with their daughters and their moms even, right? Connection is connection. Relationships are relationships. So don't hear me say son and think that it doesn't apply to you. I for sure want to help all of my people connect with their people that they love. So come join the group on the Facebook that I'm running. It's called Stop Fighting with Your Son. And it's totally free. And this is where I really get deep and down and coach people, and I help them create those connections on kind of in a deeper way. Okay, I hope to see you there. I will see you there, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.